r/AITA for exposing my friend who faked cancer for attention. Hashtag chunk 1. I found the medical records by accident. That's what keeps running through my head as I sit here, laptop open, the PDF file staring back at me like some kind of accusation. Not an accusation directed at me, but one I'm about to make. My hands are shaking. My coffee's gone cold, sitting untouched next to my keyboard since I opened that email 3 hours ago. Let me back up. My name is Jordan, I'm 24, and I'm currently in the process of potentially destroying the friendship that's meant more to me than almost anything else for the past 5 years. The thing is, I didn't mean to. I didn't go looking for this. I didn't set out to be some kind of detective or truth seeker. I was just trying to help my best friend, Riley, and instead I found out that the person I've been grieving for, the person who's been fighting for their life, is perfectly, completely, utterly healthy. Riley and I met freshman year of college. We lived on the same dorm floor, bonded over a shared hatred of our organic chemistry professor, and basically became inseparable. The kind of friends that people probably got tired of seeing together. We'd go to movies, study sessions, late-night food runs. We knew each other's families, showed up to each other's worst moments, celebrated the good ones. When Riley's parents went through a rough patch sophomore year, I sat in their dorm room for hours just listening. When I bombed an internship interview, Riley was the one who talked me down from thinking my entire future was ruined. That's the backdrop for what happened 8 months ago. Riley called me in March, voice shaky, asking if I could come over. They said they had something important to tell me. My stomach dropped immediately. I thought maybe they were in trouble, or someone had died, or something was seriously wrong. When I got to their apartment, Riley was sitting on the couch with red-rimmed eyes, and they told me they'd been diagnosed with cancer. Leukemia, to be specific. I remember the room spinning a little. I remember thinking this was the kind of conversation people have in movies, not in real life, not with someone you've known since freshman year, not with someone who's only 24 years old. Riley explained that they'd been having symptoms for months, fatigue, bruising, all of it, and finally went to get checked out. The doctors confirmed it. They were starting treatment immediately. I cried. I actually cried, sitting there on that couch. And then I became the person Riley needed me to be. I went to chemo appointments. I brought meals over. I organized a friend group dinner to break the news to everyone together. I helped set up a GoFundMe because the medical bills were apparently astronomical, even with insurance. I watched our friend group rally around Riley in a way I'd never seen before. People who hadn't talked to Riley in months suddenly showed up with care packages. Professors gave deadline extensions without question. Strangers on the internet donated thousands of dollars. I was proud of our community. I was proud of how people came together. But over the past few months, little things started feeling off. Nothing dramatic. Just tiny, nagging inconsistencies. Riley would post updates about treatment, but the timeline never quite matched up with what they'd told me. They'd mentioned being devastated about losing their hair, but their hair looked exactly the same when I'd visit. They'd post photos at the hospital in the morning and then be at parties that night looking energized in a way that seemed inconsistent with someone undergoing aggressive chemotherapy. I'd mention these things to myself and then immediately feel guilty for noticing them. Who notices inconsistencies in their best friend's cancer diagnosis? What kind of horrible person does that make me? The answer, apparently, is someone who accidentally opens a PDF titled 2024 Annual Physical Results, Riley, last name, when Riley's forwarded me an email with several attachments, and I clicked the wrong file while trying to find the doctor's note about adjusting treatment schedules that Riley claimed they needed me to take to the registrar's office. The physical was dated 2 weeks ago. It said Riley was in perfect health. Every test normal. No indicators of disease. No ongoing treatment. No medication. No cancer. I stared at that document for 10 minutes without blinking. Then I opened another PDF. And another. There were at least 5 different doctor's clearance forms, all recent, all saying the same thing: Riley was completely, entirely fine. Better than fine, actually. Excellent blood work. No red flags whatsoever. That's when I started actually looking. Not consciously trying to gather evidence, but noticing things I'd previously talked myself out of examining too closely. The specific language Riley used online was copied directly from cancer blogs and support websites. The photos from hospital visits had metadata that proved they were taken at Riley's apartment. The GoFundMe donation page had raised $37,000. $37,000 from people who thought they were helping save Riley's life. And Riley's professors had been unbelievably lenient. Extended deadlines. Incomplete grades that didn't require completion. One professor had even changed a C to an A, citing circumstances beyond the student's control. My brain felt like it was moving through water. Nothing seemed real. Because here's the thing, if those medical records are real, and I've checked 3 times, verified the hospital's letterhead, called the main line pretending to be Riley to confirm the records were genuine, then everything Riley told us was a lie. 8 months of a meticulously constructed, elaborate, detailed lie. Which means I'm now sitting here at nearly 2 a.m. with medical evidence that my best friend of 5 years has been committing fraud, emotionally manipulating everyone who cares about them, and stealing money from strangers based on a false illness. And I have to decide what to do about it. Hashtag chunk 2. The thing that nobody tells you about discovering something that changes everything is that there's no graceful way to process it. There's no manual for, my best friend is a fraud. There's no support group. There's no amount of time that actually makes sense before you have to do something about it. By 5 a.m., I'd made a list. I know that sounds clinical, but I needed to organize my thoughts, and my brain was doing this thing where it kept cycling between disbelief and anger and a kind of nauseated betrayal that made my chest feel too tight. Writing it down seemed safer than just spiraling in my own head. What I know asterisk. Riley faked cancer diagnosis, 8 months. Medical records prove she's healthy. $37,000 raised via GoFundMe. Multiple professors gave leniency/grade changes. Evidence, hospital metadata, copied language from websites, medical clearance forms. Timeline inconsistencies I noticed but ignored. People affected asterisk. Friend group, emotional manipulation. Professors, academic fraud. GoFundMe donors, financial fraud. Online community who believed and supported her. What I need to do asterisk. That last line is where I got stuck. Because knowing what happened and knowing what to do about it are two completely different things. I tried to sleep at 6 a.m. Failed. Got up and made coffee instead, which is ridiculous because I've now had approximately 17 cups of coffee since 2 a.m. and my hands won't stop shaking and my eyes feel like they've been sandpapered. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. There's this expression I'm wearing, something between horror and betrayal, that doesn't look like my face. By 8 a.m., my phone started buzzing. It was Sarah, one of our mutual friends. She and Riley had gotten pretty close over the past few months, partly because Sarah was one of the most involved in the support network. Sarah had organized meal trains. She'd driven Riley to appointments, or at least what Riley said were appointments. Sarah had donated $500 to the GoFundMe and gotten a bunch of her family members to donate too. The text said, "Hey. A bunch of us are getting together tonight to check on Riley. She seemed kind of down yesterday. You coming?" I stared at that message for 5 full minutes before I realized my hands were actually trembling. What do I even say? Hey, funny story, Riley's not actually sick, so don't worry about the emotional support you've been pouring into this situation for 8 months. By the way, that money you gave is probably going toward Riley's spring break vacation fund. I didn't know that for certain, but the thought made my stomach turn anyway. I didn't respond. At 9:47 a.m., Riley texted me. "Hey. Haven't heard from you in a few days. Are you mad at me? You're being weird." I actually laughed. It came out sounding a little unhinged, even to my own ears. Am I being weird? The person asking that question has spent 8 months building an elaborate lie so detailed and sophisticated that it fooled everyone. They've cried fake tears. They've talked about their fear of dying. They've let people restructure their lives around supporting them. And now they're asking if I'm being weird. I didn't respond to that text either. By noon, I had to do something, so I did what any reasonable person would do in a complete crisis. I called my mom. My mom has this thing where she gets very quiet when something serious is happening. Most people think quiet means calm. It doesn't. It means she's thinking. She's processing. She's already 3 steps ahead of wherever you are emotionally. I told her everything. I read her the medical records. I explained the inconsistencies. I laid out the fraud. And she listened without interrupting, which I appreciated because I would have completely fallen apart if she tried to interjection me with sympathy. When I finished, she asked, "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I don't want to ruin Riley's life. But I also can't just not do anything. People are being hurt by this. People gave money they probably couldn't afford to lose." "True," Mom said. "But you also can't control what happens after you tell people. You can only control whether you tell them or not." "That's not helpful," I said. "No," she agreed. "But it's honest." She suggested I talk to someone at the university, maybe Dean of Student Affairs, or someone in student conduct. She suggested I contact a GoFundMe platform to report fraud. She suggested I get a lawyer, which made my stomach drop, because that's when it became real in a legal sense, not just a moral one. She also said, "You need to talk to Riley first." What? Why would I do that? Because, Mom said carefully, you might not have the whole story. You might be missing context. And if you're going to blow up this situation, and you are going to blow it up, because you can't sit on this, she deserves to know you know before everyone else does. I hated that she was right. I hated it so much that I hung up on her, not dramatically, just a quiet end to the call, and stared at my ceiling for another hour. By 2 p.m., I had 3 more texts from Riley asking if everything was okay, getting increasingly concerned. Sarah had texted asking if I knew where Riley was, because Riley wasn't answering her calls. One of our mutual friends, Marcus, had sent a meme to our group chat, and the conversation had moved on without me, which was both a relief and somehow made me feel more isolated. I couldn't just sit here anymore. I couldn't sit here knowing what I knew while everyone texted Riley asking how she was feeling, how her appointments went, whether she was holding up okay. I texted Riley, "Can we talk? In person. This afternoon." Her response came back in about 30 seconds, "OMG yes. Is everything okay? You're freaking me out." "You're freaking me out," I thought. "Everything's fine," I typed. "I just need to talk about something. Can you meet me at the coffee place on 5th at 4? "Sure. See you then." And just like that, I committed to it. In 4 hours, I was going to sit across from my best friend of 5 years and tell her that I knew her entire life for the past 8 months had been a lie. I had no idea how she was going to react. I had no idea if she'd cry, or get angry, or try to convince me I was wrong about the medical records. I had no idea what happened next. All I knew was that my life and Riley's life and probably everyone else in our friend group's life was about to irrevocably change, and I was the one pulling the trigger. The shaking in my hands got worse. #Chunk3. The coffee place on 5th is one of those aggressively Instagram-worthy spots that Riley loves, exposed brick, Edison bulbs, the kind of place where people spend 15 minutes angling their cups for the perfect photo. Under normal circumstances, I would have suggested somewhere quieter. Today, I didn't trust myself to be alone with Riley anywhere that felt too intimate. I needed witnesses, even if they didn't know they were witnessing anything. I got there at 3:45. Ordered a coffee I didn't want. Sat at a corner table that felt simultaneously too exposed and too isolated. My leg bounced so hard the table rattled. I forced it to stop. Started it again without realizing it. At 3:58, Riley walked in. She looked good. That was the first thing that struck me, and it made me angry in a way I wasn't prepared for. She looked healthy. Genuinely healthy. Her hair was full. She'd gained back whatever weight she'd lost, or never lost, in this scenario. She was wearing the cute sundress she'd mentioned wanting to buy last month, the one that she'd treat herself to if chemo went well. I watched her scan the coffee shop, spot me, and break into this relieved smile that made my stomach turn. Hey, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. You're being so mysterious. What's going on? Are you okay? You look terrible, by the way. Like, legitimately bad. Did you not sleep? I didn't sleep, I confirmed. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, flat, distant. We need to talk about something. Riley's expression shifted. She set down her bag carefully, like she was handling something fragile. Okay, you're scaring me. Is it your family? Did something happen? I had planned to ease into this. I'd rehearsed it in my head approximately 400 times over the last 8 hours. I was going to start with something like, I found some things that don't add up, or, I need to ask you about something and I need you to be honest with me. I was going to give her an out, a way to come clean before I accused her outright. But looking at her, at that carefully constructed expression of concern, at the way she was already performing being a good friend, being a good person, something in me snapped. I know you don't have cancer, I said. The coffee shop sounds didn't change. Someone's espresso machine hissed. A barista called out a name that wasn't either of ours. A couple at the next table laughed about something. The world kept spinning like I hadn't just said the thing that would break it. Riley's face went very still. What? She said quietly. I know, I repeated. I have your medical records, Riley. I have the metadata showing they were modified. I have copies of paragraphs from medical websites that show up verbatim in your blog posts. I have the documentation from the hospital that was supposed to be billing your insurance, except it doesn't exist. I know. All of it. I watched her face cycle through emotions like someone flipping through TV channels. Confusion. Then something that looked like calculation. Then, and this is what really got me, almost a flash of relief before she caught it and replaced it with hurt. How did you get those? She asked. Her voice was very small. That's not the point. No, I'm serious. How did you get access to my medical records? That's private. That's mine. You left them open on the shared cloud folder, I said. The one we all use for group documents. You literally saved them there and then changed the share settings to view only, but forgot to remove me before you actually changed the visibility. I found them by accident when I was looking for the address of that restaurant for the group dinner last weekend. This was true. I had found them by accident. But I had also read them. I had also dug deeper. And somewhere in the act of digging, I had crossed a line from stumbling upon evidence to actively investigating my friend. I wasn't sure when that had happened. I wasn't sure it mattered anymore. Riley's eyes filled with tears. Actual, genuine-looking tears. And I sat there thinking, asterisk, how many times have you cried this exact way in the last 8 months? How many times have you practiced this expression in the mirror, asterisk? I can explain, she said. Can you? I asked. Because I'm genuinely curious how you explain $37,000 in donations. How you explain lying to Sarah about appointments. How you explain asking Marcus to help you into cars like you were too weak to do it yourself. How you explain every single person in our friend group restructuring their lives around you. You don't understand, Riley started. Then help me understand. Please. Because right now, the only explanation I can come up with is that you needed attention and validation so badly that you were willing to manipulate every single person who cares about you. You were willing to take money from strangers. You were willing to commit fraud. Riley's hands gripped the edge of the table. You're being really judgmental right now. I actually laughed. I'm being judgmental. You fabricated a terminal illness. I never said it was terminal, she said quickly. Too quickly. You implied it extensively. You talked about your fight and your journey and how uncertain everything was. You let people believe you were dying, Riley. That's not a technical distinction. That's the whole thing. I was going through something, she said, and her voice hardened slightly. There was a defensiveness creeping in, the way people get when they've been caught and are starting to get angry about being caught instead of remorseful about what they've done. I was struggling, and yes, maybe I went about it the wrong way, but... The wrong way. I interrupted. Riley, you committed fraud. You emotionally manipulated dozens of people. You took money that belonged to other people. That's not the wrong way to handle struggling. That's not a character flaw or a bad coping mechanism. That's a crime. The couple at the next table had gone quiet. I realized they were listening. Part of me wanted to speak louder, to make sure everyone in this coffee shop knew what Riley had done. Another part of me wanted to cry. What are you going to do? Riley asked. Her voice was steady now, eerily so. The tears had stopped. Are you going to tell people? I don't know, I said honestly. Because if you tell people, you're going to ruin my life. Your life is already ruined, I said. You ruined it. I'm just deciding whether I'm going to help people understand what actually happened or let you keep lying to everyone. Riley stared at me for a long moment. And in that moment, I saw something shift behind her eyes. Some calculation. Some decision being made. If you tell anyone, she said slowly, I'll tell them that you sexually harassed me. That you pressured me into things. That you took those medical records without permission and have been obsessed with me. The coffee shop tilted. What? I whispered. That's what I'll do, Riley said. She sounded almost conversational about it. I'll cry to everyone about how you've made me feel unsafe. And they'll believe me because people believe women about these things. You'll be the bad guy. So before you go around exposing me, you should probably think about that. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Couldn't process that we'd gone from her being caught in an elaborate lie to her threatening to fabricate an entirely different one about me. Riley stood up. Grabbed her bag. See you around, she said, and walked out of the coffee shop like she'd just had a casual conversation about the weather. I sat there, hands shaking, staring at the cold coffee I'd never drunk, and realized I had no idea how to win this. #Chunk4. I didn't move for maybe 10 minutes. I just sat there, staring at nothing, replaying the thread over and over in my head like a song I couldn't get out of my brain. The couple at the next table had resumed their conversation, but I could tell they were being careful about it, aware that something had happened. The barista was pretending not to watch me. A woman with a laptop kept glancing over. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk, think about what you're doing. Think about what happens to you if you go through with this. R asterisk. She texted me. From a different number, presumably. Which meant she had my number saved in multiple places. Which meant she thought ahead about this. Which meant I wasn't the first person to confront her about this, or at least, she'd anticipated that someone might eventually figure it out. I texted back, how many people have you done this to before? The response came almost immediately, asterisk, that's not relevant. What's relevant is that you have a choice. You can keep your life intact, or you can destroy both of ours. But you should know that if you go down, I'm coming with you. And I'll take you down harder, asterisk. I stared at the screen. Rational me, the part of me that had spent the last 8 hours assembling evidence and planning this conversation, understood that this was a bluff. That Riley was scared. That threatened people say things they don't mean. But there was another part of me, a growing part, that wondered if I'd severely miscalculated. That wondered if I'd just started a war with someone who had already proven she was willing to lie extensively, creatively, and without guilt. I left the coffee shop without finishing my coffee. Without even paying, I just left cash on the table and walked out, aware of the barista's eyes on me, aware that I looked like exactly the kind of person who leaves a coffee shop in a daze. The walk home took 40 minutes. I have no memory of most of it. I remember standing at a crosswalk for what felt like a very long time, watching cars pass, thinking about how Riley had delivered that threat with the same tone she'd used when asking what I wanted for my birthday last year. How casual it was. How certain. When I got home, I did something I'd been avoiding all morning. I opened my laptop and checked the fundraiser. The page was still live. Riley's fight against cancer, the title made me feel physically ill now. $53,000. That's what the total showed now. The number had gone up since yesterday. People were still donating. Still leaving comments. Stay strong, you've got this. Asterisk, sending healing vibes and prayers your way. You're such an inspiration, asterisk. Asterisk, your courage is humbling. Please know that this community is here for you, asterisk. I scrolled through the comments and felt something like rage building in my chest. These were real people. People who'd given money they probably didn't have to spare. People who'd cried reading her updates. People who'd been genuinely moved by her story and had decided to give something back to the universe, to help someone they'd never met fight a disease they'd never had. And she'd lied to all of them. That's what made it different from just lying to us. If she'd just lied to her friends, if this had been about getting sympathy from people who actually knew her, it would still be wrong, but it would be contained. This was broader. This was predatory. I was still staring at the fundraiser page when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. I said carefully. Hey, it's Sarah. Sarah. One of our mutual friends. One of the people Riley had manipulated most egregiously. Sarah, who'd started a meal train for Riley. Sarah, who'd sat with Riley through treatment and held her hand. Sarah, who'd taken time off work to drive her to appointments. Oh, I said. Hi. Riley just called me, Sarah said without preamble. She said you confronted her about something. That you found some of her medical records and misinterpreted them. That you're planning to spread rumors about her. Is that true? The way she said it was careful. Neutral. But there was something underneath it. A readiness to believe either version. A waiting to be convinced energy. Did she explain why I would have access to her medical records? I asked. She said they were on a shared drive and you were digging around for some reason. I was looking for a restaurant address, I said. And I found her fake medical documents. Sarah, they're fabricated. The metadata proves they've been edited. And there's more, I've checked the hospital she claims to be getting treatment at, and there's no record of her. I've looked at her blog posts and compared them to actual medical information and... Okay, stop, Sarah said. I don't want to hear this right now. What do you mean you don't want to hear it? I mean I think you're doing something really cruel, Sarah said, and now there was anger in her voice. I think you found something you didn't understand and now you're running with it because you want attention or because you're jealous or because something else is going on with you. And I think that's fucked up. I'm not jealous, I said. Sarah, I have evidence. I can show you. I don't want to see it. And honestly, I don't think you should be sending that kind of stuff around. That's like, really illegal. Privacy violations. I think you should talk to a lawyer before you do anything else. She hung up. I sat in the silence of my apartment and felt something crystallize inside me. Riley had gotten to her first. Had probably cried and told her own version of events. Had probably made herself sound like the victim. And Sarah, good, kind Sarah, had believed her because Riley was the girl with cancer and I was just, whatever I was. The person making accusations. That's when I realized the real problem wasn't the evidence or the truth or even the fraud. The real problem was that Riley had a 5-year head start on her lie. She'd spent 8 months getting people emotionally invested in her story. 8 months building sympathy. 8 months making herself the protagonist of everyone's narrative. And I was just the person trying to revise the plot. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Riley's unknown number. Asterisk, did Sarah call you yet? See how this goes. See how fast people will believe me over you. You were always going to lose this, asterisk. I turned off my phone. Hashtag chunk 5. I didn't turn it back on for 16 hours. I know that because when I finally did, I had 47 text messages, 12 missed calls, and 3 voicemails. Most of them were from numbers I didn't recognize. A few were from people I did. My mom had called twice. My roommate, who I hadn't even told about any of this, had texted asking if I was okay because people are messaging me asking about you. My academic advisor had sent an email marked urgent. And there were messages from at least 5 other people in our friend group, ranging from concerned to hostile. I sat on my bed, still in yesterday's clothes, and opened the messages in order of increasing dread. Asterisk, hey, are you okay? Riley's really upset. She said something happened between you guys, asterisk, Jessica. What the fuck is wrong with you, Marcus? Asterisk, I can't believe you would do this to someone who's literally fighting for her life. Disgusting, asterisk, someone named Tyler whose contact info I didn't even have. Asterisk, call me ASAP. This is serious, asterisk, my mom. Asterisk, I got a call from Riley's parents. They're talking about pressing charges against you for harassment and defamation. You need to tell me what's going on right now, asterisk, my mom again. I opened my email. The one from my academic advisor, Dr. Patterson, was brief. Asterisk, please come to my office before your next class. We need to discuss some serious allegations that have been brought to my attention regarding your conduct toward another student, asterisk. I read that 3 times. Allegations. Plural. Already plural, and it couldn't have been more than 18 hours since I'd left that coffee shop. My hands were shaking again. I called my mom first. She picked up on the first ring, which meant she'd been waiting. What is happening, she said, no preamble, no hello. Riley's mother called me. She said you've been harassing her daughter and making false accusations about her medical condition. Is this true? No, I said. I mean, not exactly. Is Riley actually sick or not? I took a breath. No. She's not. She's been faking it. I found. Oh my God, my mom said, and I couldn't tell if she was horrified at the accusation or horrified at me. Do you understand how serious this is? Do you understand what you're accusing her of? Yes, I do, which is why I have evidence. Real, documented evidence. Mom, she's taken $53,000 from people. That you haven't verified, my mom said. That you found on a shared drive that you shouldn't have been accessing. Honey, that's not how this works. You can't just decide someone's a criminal and then expose them on the internet. I didn't expose anything, I said. I confronted her. In private. At a coffee shop. I was giving her a chance to come clean. And what did she say? She threatened me. She said if I told anyone, she'd make up lies about me. She said she'd destroy me harder than I destroy her. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I think you need to talk to a lawyer, my mom said finally. Before you do anything else. Before you tell anyone else about this. Do you understand? This could be defamation. This could be slander. If what you're saying is true, then what she did was wrong, but the way you handle it matters legally. A lot. After we hung up, I opened the voicemail from Dr. Patterson. Her tone was professional but icy. I've received reports from several students expressing concern about threatening messages and accusations you've been making regarding another student's medical condition. I need you to come see me today. This is not optional. I didn't remember sending threatening messages. I texted Riley, sure, but nothing threatening. Unless Riley was telling people I'd threatened her. Unless she was reframing my confrontation as an attack. Which meant the narrative had already shifted. I wasn't the person who'd uncovered a fraud. I was the person making wild accusations against someone with cancer. I was the jealous friend. The unstable one. The one making it up. I opened Instagram. I told myself I wouldn't, but I did. Riley had posted something new. Not on her main feed, that still had all her cancer updates, the photos in hospital gowns, the inspirational captions about fighting the good fight. But on her story, she'd posted a photo of herself looking exhausted and sad, with a caption, asterisk, sometimes the people closest to us can hurt us the most. Please check on your friends. You never know what they're going through, asterisk. The photo had been viewed 847 times in the last 2 hours. The comments were already coming in. People defending her. Expressing outrage on her behalf. One girl had written, anyone who spreads lies about someone with cancer is literally a monster. I closed Instagram. I sat there for another hour, just breathing, trying to think. Trying to figure out what to do next. Because here's what had become clear to me, I had miscalculated. Not about the evidence, not about the fraud, but about how this would play out. I'd assumed that if I presented evidence, people would believe it. That truth was powerful enough to override a narrative. But I'd been naive. Riley hadn't just created a lie, she'd created an identity. She positioned herself as the victim, the fighter, the brave one. And now I positioned myself as the aggressor. If I released the evidence now, I wouldn't be exposing a fraud. I'd be a jealous friend attacking someone with cancer. A mentally unstable person making up lies. Someone who should be avoided. And if I didn't release the evidence? Then what? She got away with it. She kept the $53,000. She kept her new identity as a cancer survivor. She kept her friends' loyalty and sympathy. And I lost everyone anyway, because I was the person who tried to ruin her and failed. My phone buzzed. Another text from an unknown number, asterisk, you made a mistake confronting me in public. You made a bigger mistake telling Sarah. And you're about to make your biggest mistake yet. Whatever you do next, just know that I'm ready. I'm always 3 steps ahead of you. R asterisk. I realized something then. Riley wasn't panicking. She wasn't scared. She was confident. She was enjoying this. She'd already won. Hashtag chunk 6. I didn't go to see Dr. Patterson that day. I know that sounds like a terrible decision in retrospect, but at the time, it felt like the only decision I had. If I showed up to her office, I'd have to explain everything. And explaining everything meant laying out my evidence, which meant admitting I'd accessed Riley's shared drive without permission, which meant giving Dr. Patterson exactly the ammunition she'd need to flip this entire situation on me. My mom's words kept echoing, the way you handle it matters legally. So instead, I sat in my dorm room and tried to think strategically for the first time since I'd opened that folder. Riley had already started the narrative shift. She'd already positioned me as the aggressor. That meant anything I did now would be filtered through that lens. If I went to Dr. Patterson with evidence, I was a jealous friend trying to destroy someone. If I went public, I was a cyberbully harassing a cancer patient. If I stayed silent, I was a coward. But at least silence wouldn't make things worse. Except it would. Because people were already choosing sides, and I could feel myself losing ground by the hour. By noon, I'd been blocked by 4 people in our friend group. By 2 p.m., someone had created a private Instagram story with screenshots of my old texts with Riley, innocent texts, just normal friend stuff, but presented with commentary like, look at how she's talking to her, and asterisk, this is actually psychotic behavior. Asterisk, I knew it was circulating because my roommate knocked on the door looking uncomfortable and asked if I wanted to talk about whatever's happening. I didn't. At 3 p.m., I got an email from the fundraising platform where Riley had set up her cancer campaign. The subject line read, account under investigation for potential terms violation. I opened it with shaking hands. Asterisk, we've received a report regarding your fundraising campaign and are conducting a standard review of your account. As part of this review, we will be reaching out to you directly to verify the medical information associated with your fundraising effort. Please note that any misrepresentation of medical conditions is a serious violation of our terms of service and may result in legal action. Asterisk. Someone had reported her. I hadn't reported her. My mom hadn't reported her. I hadn't told anyone else the truth yet. So who? My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Hey, a voice said. Female, unfamiliar. Don't freak out. I'm calling because I think you and I have a mutual problem. Who is this? My name's Emma. I'm a junior. I don't think you know me, but I know Riley. Or I thought I did. There was a pause. Look, I'm just going to say it, I'm one of the people she lied to. I gave her $2,000 for her cancer treatment fund. And about an hour ago, someone sent me the same documentation you apparently sent to Sarah. Medical records proving she's completely healthy. I went very still. I didn't send anything to Sarah, I said carefully. Not officially. I know. But Sarah's not quiet. She told her girlfriend, who told her roommate, who sent it to her cousin, who apparently sent it to like half the freshman class. It's spreading. Slowly, but it's spreading. Emma took a breath. And yeah, Riley's already in damage control mode. She's telling everyone it's doctored, that you faked the evidence, that you're jealous because she's getting more attention than you. But some of us are starting to do the math. Some of us are realizing that if this is real, we've been scammed. Emma, I need to be honest with you. I can't talk about this without talking to a lawyer first. My mom said. Your mom's right, Emma said. But also, you should know that I already reported Riley to the fundraising platform. And I'm pretty sure at least 2 other people have too. So that email you probably got. It's not going away. And if the platform investigates and finds what you found, they're going to have questions about how it spread and who reported it. After we hung up, I sat there trying to process what this meant. The evidence was spreading, but it was spreading slowly, organically, through a network of people who felt betrayed. And the platform had been alerted. Which meant this wasn't something I could control anymore. It wasn't something I could contain by staying silent. Riley had been right about one thing, I'd miscalculated. But not in the way she thought. I'd been so focused on whether I should expose her that I hadn't considered that other people might do it for me. At 4:47 p.m., I got a text from a number I recognized. It was Sarah. Asterisk, we need to talk. Not about what you told me, but about what you're doing. I've been getting messages from people asking about the evidence. People are asking if it's real. People are asking if I believe you. I don't know what to tell them because I don't actually know what to believe. Asterisk. I called her back. How much of this is spreading? I asked. I don't know exactly. But enough that Riley's called an emergency friend group meeting for tonight. She's apparently going to address the accusations in person. She's invited like 20 people. You're not invited, obviously, but I heard about it through Marcus, who heard about it from Jessica. What's she going to say? I don't know. But I know what she's going to do. She's going to cry. She's going to talk about how hard it's been. She's going to say that she doesn't know why you're doing this to her, but that she forgives you anyway, and she hopes everyone else can too. And it's going to work, because that's what she does. She tells stories that make people feel like they're the good guys for believing her. Sarah, what do you think is true? There was a long silence. I think you found something real, Sarah said finally. I think you confronted her about it. And I think everything after that, the way she's handled it, the way she's attacked you, the way she's spinning this, I think that tells me everything I need to know. But I also think you're in real trouble. And I don't know how to help you without making things worse. After we hung up, I opened my laptop. I started a new document. I started writing down everything, every discovery, every confrontation, every text, every moment. Not for anyone else. Just for me. Because I was going to need documentation. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Asterisk, enjoy the next few hours. They're the last ones you have before everything changes. Asterisk. I turned my phone off again. Hashtag chunk 7. I didn't sleep. I'm not sure I even tried. Instead, I sat at my desk with my laptop open, staring at the document I'd started. Everything. Every text exchange with Riley, every moment I'd noticed something off, every lie she told and every time I'd chosen to believe her anyway. I kept adding to it, organizing it chronologically, because Sarah was right, I was going to need documentation. But documentation for what, exactly? A lawsuit? A police report? My own sanity. My phone stayed off. I couldn't handle any more notifications, any more screenshots of my words being dissected, any more messages from people I thought were my friends asking careful questions that were really accusations. Around 3 a.m., my roommate came back to the dorm. I could hear her in the dark, trying to be quiet, and I knew immediately that she'd been at Riley's emergency meeting. I'm awake, I said. She turned on the desk lamp and winced at the brightness. Oh. Okay. She sat on her bed, still in her jacket. I probably shouldn't tell you anything about what happened. Then don't. But I think you should know that, she stopped herself. Okay, I'm going to tell you anyway, because I'm not good at lying and I'm not good at staying silent when something feels wrong. Riley cried. Like, really cried. She talked about how the diagnosis knocked her world upside down, and how she wasn't ready to tell people at first, so she told a few people, and then she had to tell more people to explain why she was leaving school, and it just spiraled. And she said she was so ashamed of how she'd handled it that she couldn't face the truth anymore. My stomach turned. That's not what happened. I know. My roommate looked at me directly. Because I asked her afterward. I asked her about her treatment plan, what kind of cancer, what hospital she's been going to. And she got really vague and said she wanted privacy about the medical details. And then I remembered that you've never mentioned her being in treatment, never mentioned her being sick, and I realized I've never actually seen her look sick. Not once in 8 months. What did you say to her? Nothing, because I didn't want to be the person who publicly questioned a cancer patient. But I'm telling you now because I think you're getting blamed for something that might actually be true, and that's not fair. She paused. Also, she said some things about you that were really mean. She called you obsessive and jealous, and she talked about how you've always been competitive with her, and how this is your way of taking her down. And I sat there and listened because I didn't have the courage to defend you. After she left to take a shower, I felt something shift inside me. Not relief, exactly. More like clarification. My roommate's doubt in Riley had started small, just a question about treatment. But that was the thing about lies this big, this elaborate. They didn't fall apart because of dramatic confrontations. They fell apart because of small, reasonable questions that didn't add up. I turned my phone back on. There were 47 new messages. 47. Most of them were from unknown numbers, which was somehow worse than if they'd been from people I knew. People were reaching out to me, complete strangers who'd seen the screenshots, who'd done the math themselves, who were starting to doubt their trust in Riley. But there were also angry messages from people still loyal to her. People who called me cruel and vindictive. People who said I should be ashamed of myself for attacking someone vulnerable. One message was from my mom, * call me. Now, *. I did. How bad is it? She asked immediately. Pretty bad. It's spreading. There's a fundraising platform investigation now, and apparently several people have reported her independently. My friend Sarah says it's starting to come out at school. Okay. Okay, that's actually better than you doing it yourself, legally speaking. If multiple independent parties reported her, that's not you orchestrating a takedown. That's a pattern of behavior that multiple people have concerns about. She paused. But I need you to listen to me very carefully. Do not post anything. Do not send evidence directly to anyone. Do not respond to any of these messages from strangers. If anyone official, police, the university, the fundraising platform, reaches out to you directly, you call me before you answer any questions. Understand? Yes. And I'm going to talk to a lawyer friend of mine. Just to be prepared. This might become a bigger thing, and I want us to be ahead of it. After we hung up, I scrolled through the messages more carefully. Most of them were variations on the same theme. People wanted to know if the evidence was real, people wanted to know if I was lying, people wanted confirmation of what they'd started to suspect. But buried in there was one message that made my blood go cold. * from Riley's mom. Her name was in my phone as Carol, R's mom, from a group chat about a birthday surprise 3 years ago, *. I don't know what you think you found, but you need to stop spreading lies about my daughter. She's dealing with enough without having to defend herself against conspiracy theories. I've contacted an attorney, and we're prepared to pursue defamation charges if this continues. Delete everything you've posted and stop contacting people with false evidence, or we will have no choice but to take legal action, *. I read it 3 times. Then I called my mom back. She's threatening defamation suits, I told her. Okay, that's a threat. Not an actual suit. Yet. Did she tell you to stop contacting people? Yes. Did you contact people? No. Not directly. But my evidence got circulated anyway. Then technically, you're not the one spreading it. And if her daughter actually has cancer, a defamation suit wouldn't hold up because the truth is a defense against defamation. My mom took a breath. But if her daughter doesn't have cancer, and the evidence proves it, then her threatening a defamation suit is basically an admission that she knows the truth. No lawyer would advise filing suit in that situation. It was logical. Reassuring, even. But it didn't change the fact that Riley's family was now involved. That this had escalated from a friendship problem to something with legal implications. That I was potentially in the position of having destroyed someone's family's reputation, regardless of whether it was deserved. At 6 a.m., I got a notification from the fundraising platform. Riley's campaign had been suspended pending investigation. I refreshed the page and saw that the investigation status had been updated, account under review for potential fraud. The word hit differently in the morning light. Fraud. Not a lie. Not an exaggeration. Fraud. I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the person looking back. I was the person who'd started this. I was the person who'd made the choice to keep looking, to find the evidence, to confront Riley. Everything that was happening now, the spreading rumors, the platform investigation, the legal threats, the destroyed friendships, all of it traced back to me. But Riley was the person who'd lied. And that was the thing I kept coming back to, the thing that kept me from completely falling apart. She'd made the choice to lie for 8 months. She'd made the choice to lie to my face. She'd made the choice to take money under false pretenses. I just made the choice to tell the truth. Somehow, that distinction felt very small and very large at the same time. #Chunk8, the truth settles. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in a small conference room at the university student conduct office when everything finally came to an end, not with a bang, but with bureaucratic finality. The investigator, a tired-looking woman named Dr. Patterson, slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents I'd never seen before, medical records that Riley had apparently submitted to the university as part of her medical withdrawal request. Except they weren't real. They were forged. The hospital listed didn't exist. The oncologist's signature had been lifted from a legitimate doctor's website and photoshopped onto the paperwork. We also found that she created a fake email account posing as her physician to communicate with her professors, Dr. Patterson said quietly. The fraud is extensive. More extensive than your original evidence suggested. I felt nothing. I'd expected to feel vindicated, but instead there was just a hollow ache. What happens now? I asked. That depends on whether you want to press charges. The university is definitely moving forward with academic misconduct proceedings, and the fundraising platform has already flagged this to law enforcement for the fraud component. But you have the option to pursue personal legal action as well. I don't, I said immediately. I just want this to be over. She nodded like she'd expected that answer. For what it's worth, we found evidence that she's done this before. At her previous school. A different diagnosis, different story, but the same pattern. This isn't her first time manipulating people. That actually did hurt. It meant Riley had learned to lie like this. It meant this wasn't a desperate moment that spiraled out of control, it was a practiced skill. She wasn't a good friend who made a terrible mistake. She was someone I'd never actually known at all. I didn't see Riley again until 3 days before she withdrew from the university. She showed up at my dorm at 9 p.m., and my roommate actually came and got me from the library because she knew I'd want to handle it in person, away from other people. Riley looked smaller than I remembered. She was wearing a sweatshirt that hung off her frame, and her hair was in a messy bun. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered that this was exactly what she would have wanted me to feel. I'm not here to convince you that you're wrong, she said before I could even say hello. The evidence is real. I know it is. I can see it in your face, you already know everything. Why? I asked. It was the only question that mattered anymore. She sat down on the edge of my desk uninvited. Because I wanted to matter. Because I was nobody, and I was tired of being nobody, and being sick made me matter. People cared about me. People asked how I was doing. People wanted to help me. And after a while, I didn't want to give that up. So you just kept lying. I didn't know how to stop. Every time I thought about coming clean, I imagined everyone hating me, and I couldn't face it. So I just kept going. And the more people who knew, the harder it got. And then you found out, and instead of just confronting me, you went to everyone, and now everyone knows, and everyone does hate me, and it's exactly what I was so afraid of that I lied in the first place. There was a twisted logic to it. A self-fulfilling prophecy that I'd apparently helped fulfill. But I didn't feel guilty anymore. I'd sat with that guilt long enough to know it wasn't mine to carry. You took money from people, I said. You took time and emotional energy from people who loved you. You made us all complicit in your lie. I know. She looked at me, and her eyes were red-rimmed but dry, like she'd cried so much that she didn't have tears left. I know, and I'm sorry, and I know sorry doesn't fix anything. I'm going to pay back the money. My parents are making sure of that. And I'm going to get help, because clearly I have some serious issues that need addressing. But I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Specifically to you. You were my best friend, and I lied to your face every single day for 8 months, and I'm sorry. I wanted to say something cutting. I wanted to make her feel a fraction of what I'd felt over the past 2 weeks. But looking at her sitting on my desk, so small and broken and real in a way she hadn't been in months, I realized that revenge wouldn't make me feel better. It would just make me like her. I hope you get help, I said. I genuinely do. But I can't forgive this. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And we can't be friends. She nodded like she'd expected that too. Okay. She stood up. For what it's worth, you were right to expose me. If you hadn't, I probably would have just kept lying. To other people, at other schools. You stopped me. After she left, I sat in the quiet of my dorm room and let myself feel the strange mix of emotions that came with that realization. I hadn't saved her. But I had stopped the lie from spreading further. That would have to be enough. 3 months later, life had mostly returned to normal. The fundraising platform had recovered $23,000 of the $27,000 that Riley had raised, and they were working on reimbursing donors. The university had expelled her for academic misconduct and fraud. Her family had moved out of state. I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that she was in therapy and working, but I tried not to think about her at all. What surprised me most was that my real friends, the ones who'd asked questions instead of just accepting things, who'd done their own investigating, who'd reached out to me even when it was awkward, were still there. My roommate and I had bonded over the whole thing in a way that felt real and unshakable. Sarah had actually apologized for doubting me initially. And a few people I'd never been particularly close to had reached out to tell me they were glad I'd said something. One night, lying in bed, I realized that I didn't regret exposing Riley, even knowing what it had cost. I regretted trusting someone who didn't deserve it. I regretted not seeing the signs earlier. But I didn't regret telling the truth. The distinction still felt important. It probably always would.